It has been a long year on the channel, and we have officially finished all of the Mega Man X games and the Mega Man mainline games, 1 through 11. And what I wanted to do with this video on this midweek roll is just take a second to reflect on the process with my friends here and answer the question, like, was this worth it? 19 Mega Man games in what is pretty much a year and a half is what we did. So we're going to go ahead and just break down kind of the highs, the lows, and the ultimate answer to the question. I think we'll start with that question itself, discuss, and then we'll circle back to it. So, John, what do you think? Was it worth playing all of those games in a year and a half?
It was a blast. I had enjoy, but I have to tell you, they're so similar that they're all a blur in my head. Like, we could have played 5 or we could have played 19. It would have been the same. The only difference is the Mega Man X and Mega Man series have some difference in like gameplay with the wall climb mechanics, and the Mega Man X, all of them have the nice quality of life improvement with the balancer and the auto switcher. So you have more quality assurance. But beyond that, I don't know. It was. I had fun. I also had a lot of suffering. Goddamn, my fucking tired. They're consistent. The bad habits they've had, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that because it impacts the Zero quadrilogy a little bit here. Ryan, what do you think? You actually played 4 less games than John, so you've been playing since December 24 with us.
I mean, they're fine. There's worse things to be trapped in a room with your friends at gunpoint and forced to do. You know.
Yeah.
Some of them are cool, but yeah, I can't tell you
Which
a lot of specifics about any of them.
Yes, that's what I'll be here for, because I actually worked on all the videos, so it's a little bit easier for me to keep them separate, except for 9 and 10. Those two blend together for me, but it doesn't matter. We're not going to get into that very deep minutia there. I think we're going to focus more on the series as a whole and the process of actually playing them, because I think this video is going to be better for people trying to decide, is it even worth jumping into a franchise that has been around since 1987? You know, as somebody playing it right now, what do you think? Is it worth playing?
Yeah, so I'm only through number 5, and I'm using a lot of the rewind and save features, and trying only to rewind and save for bosses that I genuinely just can't wrap my head around how to avoid. But I've enjoyed the base versions of the games. I don't think I've had a moment where I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to play this anymore. I have definitely taken breaks, but all in all, I'm enjoying them to a certain degree, and I'm looking forward to finishing them, as long as I can still save and rewind.
And I would say yes as well, but there would be a massive asterisk on that, because there are some games that were way better than others, and I honestly don't know if I would have come across my favorite games in the series if we weren't playing together, because I think my patience would have been much lower if I was playing alone for a lot of these things. There's definite parts in some of the games where I'm like, I would not have finished this if I was not playing with John laughing right next to me, Jeremy making memes on the computer about what's going on, and Ryan telling me how bad I am at the game the whole time.
I don't do that. Hey. I don't do that.
I have video recording of you doing that multiple times. But there's like multiple points where that is true, where I would not have made it through if it weren't for that. It's very strange, because I went through last night when we're recording this, and I watched some of our early X videos, John. the Mega Man X series, and right in Mega Man X, I said something like the Sigma stages were always kind of difficult for me, and oh boy howdy, those X Sigma stages are not near as difficult as the Wily stages are.
Oh no.
Not
they're
even
much easier.
remotely.
The only thing we had issue with oftentimes was there was some bullshit, but then but main thing was just Sigma was usually awkward as hell to fight the final boss. No, it was Wily was just fucking shit throughout.
And I think the big thing for like the Wily stages, the question is like, why are they so much harder? And I think a lot of it comes down to mobility, like freedom of mobility between the two franchises. So I guess right now would be a good time to talk about like which franchise should people start with? Like where's the better one to start with if you were to say play all 19 games? What would be the better direction to go? Mainline 1 through 11 or X 1 through 8 and then the other? What do you guys think?
I mean, you're asking yourself to be very disappointed if you start with X, so I think you gotta start at the bottom with Mega Man.
Yeah, I'm in the same kind of opinion. For me, it's just like it's a downgrade to go from all the movement tech that you come from with Mega Man X series, and then work your way to the the baseline Mega Man series. It just feels like a downgrade, and it can make the experience a little more frustrating because you're like, I could have dodged that if I had any mobility beyond jump. And not
Jump and
good
maybe
jump either.
slide.
Yeah, sometimes slide, and the slide was mainly used just to get you killed on accident because you'd accidentally press down while trying to jump. So like, the primary purpose of slide was to get you killed as a gotcha moment most of the time. So like that was your mobility choices: accidentally kill yourself and then be a fucking chunk of cheese trying to navigate through a very stupidly intricate fight with a boss whose sole goal is to rub their crotch in your face.
I'm a little bit more mixed on it just because to stack X at the bottom and then the main line on the top means that you're going to have that sequence of X 5 through 8 and then Mega Man 1 and 2 right afterwards. And Mega Man 1 and 2, I think, are very solid games. They're way better than X's 5 through 8, but X's 5 through 8 were so just not good, man. X's 5 through 8 are really, really not good. And so I think it's actually best to hear from Ryan on this one because you jumped in on the series with X5, and you actually got to see the worst of the X series before we jumped into it. So like, how did that feel jumping in from X5 and then going into 1 and 2?
It was sweet. Those games are cool. Those games are great. No, I hated that. I can't remember anything besides like just being like miserable. I remember because we do those games so like far between each other. It's kind of like those games fell out of my memory a long time ago. So,
I remember the very first experience that you had because we let you pick the very first level for X5, and the first level you chose was the one with the freaking bike mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like the worst one of those that has ever existed in the series.
Oh my god, that was your first introduction, was the red dye area.
Red dye, and then that's all she wrote, red dye, and that's the very first time. Because the rest of X5 really not great, and we didn't actually finish it because we quit on Black Devil. But,
which was the one with Axel?
The one with Axel's Mega Man X8.
What a great game.
Yeah, you did like that one because you liked spending all our stuff on Axel, which actually became...
God, I hate God, yeah.
Which became a kind of a trend for the whole series because... So Mega Man games have like a shop mechanic through some of them, but not all of them. And it got to this point where quite consistently, John and I had to figure out how to make sure things played out so Ryan didn't have the controller for the shop. Because Ryan loved to spend all of our money in the shop.
With no input from us.
He walks in, he buys something. It did work out that way.
Because no one else is going to make those hard-hitting purchases, you know?
We were in the process of
Okay.
talking about them sometimes.
Yeah, no, and we'd also ask you not to purchase certain things. You would ignore
Yeah.
us and do it anyway. So your hard-hitting choices were the hard act of, I want this, I'm doing it anyways.
Ryan's call to
Very
fame
difficult.
is picking the right weapon in Mega Man 8 and then saying all the other times were good. That was a good choice for 8, though. That was a very good weapon.
Oh
I
my
saw
God,
the description
powers.
on that, and I knew from the
That
get.
thing was
I can
sick.
tell you, after using the piercing weapon, that the piercing weapon is actually better in some cases. Not all cases. But there's some cases with, like, shield enemies, because it just kills them when it hits the shield. It doesn't, like,
Well,
ping
some
off.
of the things are better in some instances, and there's not
Yeah.
like a one.
It's kind of interesting because it actually means that you could go in with a particular build for some levels and then others. And I guess this actually leads to a great next talking point, which is just the general design waves of the series. So you've got X, which added like mobility and also something that I think the mainline series never really did that well, which was secrets and collectibles. The X series typically does secrets and collectibles way better. But then also just some of the other parts of like upgrade materials that you get in the mainline series that you don't get in the X series, such as like the bird that saves you from falling down cliffs, the anti-spike boots that can save your life one time and stuff like that. I think with like the mainline series, there's like basically three design waves. I would say that you have the NES wave where it's like, well, you've got the Mega Man 2 games, which are like you jump and shoot and that's all you get, like 9, 10, 2. And then you have like the late NES era where you're able to get the charge shot, you have a slide. And it's like those are the two ways that Mega Man usually plays, with 11 being the odd bird. But I think the rough ones to get through are the ones that really restrict your mobility tools. And I think it's for what John said, which is like you feel like you should have been able to avoid something, and then it really feels like you shouldn't be able to. Or it really feels like you should be able to block it, but you can't because you don't have the mobility tool. And I think a great example of this is every freaking time in the mainline Mega Man series that they stick an enemy down a pit, and when you go towards the pit to jump, it just jumps out.
Oh yeah, goddamn, that's such an annoying like gotcha moment control move. It never feels like, oh man, that was satisfying. It's always like, oh, fuck you guys. And it's like fine to throw that in occasionally. I mean, that's like the right of the developer. It's like that human experience of like making something, like trolling something, like, haha, look at that, you didn't expect that, did you? But the developers are like, no, this is good game design, and made it so like every pit, except for sometimes if they want to be fancy, they make it so 1 in 10 don't have the thing. It's just like,
It's very
Like any mechanic that abruptly takes away your movement in like
yeah, that's
such a jarring fashion and sends you into a pit is going to be frustrating.
Yeah, it really is frustrating, and I think it sometimes comes down to the inconsistency of it, because it means like you never know which stages are going to have this thing until you've actually played the stage. And so you don't know which one of these pits are actually going to spawn something and which one isn't. I think Mega Man 11 actually handled this much better than most, because the enemy that jumps out of like Bounce Man stage, if you hit him on the front, he doesn't actually kill you. He pushes you back, and he can only kill you if he... Well, I suppose he could push you back far enough. He never did when we played the game. But the only way that he can really kill you is if you jump and hit him on the top with your body, because then he'll deal damage and stun you into the pit, which happened one time. I feel like he was the best version of the mechanic, just because he doesn't outright kill you all the time.
The evil version of the enemy, for sure. But
yeah.
And
still.
Here's the funny thing. Mega Man 11 was enjoyable for me because they gave you a form of movement tech, which is slowing down the enemies around you.
yeah,
That made it so it's actually really enjoyable for me to platform and to try to navigate the enemies and their movements. That was so satisfying. I felt like I could actually interact with the boss.
I
Decision
love.
making.
So I guess this is the perfect time to talk about boss design, because there's a lot of design ideologies in the big, long-running Mega Man series. Because, like, when you start out, your bosses fall into two camps with Mega Man 1. They either sit in a spot and shoot very hard to dodge projectiles at you all the time, like Iceman, or they just try to touch you all the time, like Elecman.
Yeah.
And I think,
Well, I think
I'll let you guys talk real quick, but that's where I want us to start. And then we'll start adding some of the more complex design ideas as we go through.
I think that's just part of like, there's like a super varying design philosophy that I think goes in a lot of these games, and it's like you don't always know which it is until you start getting into the meat of it, where it's like sometimes they clearly design it to be doable with just your buster if need be, but I feel like there's just games where it's like this very very clearly wants you to go back and figure out what the weakness was, or else you're just gonna be like miserable the whole time.
Yeah, there's some that are
Very
like
every time where it's like
horribly impossible without their weakness. Like just actually just like the bosses are built to just fuck you up because they deal like a quarter HP every time they hit you, and they have ways of negating your damage, and they have ways of like getting to you and hitting you without you having any say in the matter.
Mm-hmm.
And the game's just like constantly staring at you, being like, "Why are you still here? Why are you still here? Why are you still trying?" And it's just like
get the
feels
weakness, idiot.
horrible, for sure.
Very, very difficult to just die on one stage all the time. And the way that we played the game, I thought
Not the stages,
made
boss specifically, but yeah, it's
the way that we played the game that I think made it interesting for at least our visual, like the way that we responded to some of the stuff, but maybe isn't the way I would recommend it, is that when we chose a level, we stuck with that level the whole time.
Which this philosophy made some of these games a nightmare.
It
Because
also made it really funny, honestly. Some of it made it really fun, honestly, because some of those bosses, legitimately, they're designed so that you walk in, and if you flash your ability skill at them, they look at it and then just get raptured and die. Like they just instantly they might not even be there. There's been bosses in that game that I have never actually learned their moveset because we happened to walk in there with a weakness on accident, which is oftentimes how badly we play these. 2 out of 8 of them we usually find the weakness. Those ones, I don't even know what the fuck they do. All I know is it looks like a bulky guy. I'm like, maybe he has a punch move, and then he falls over dead. And they're like, okay, cool. Well, I guess we, like, good on us. So it's like this weird design philosophy where sometimes they make so that boss literally is uninteractable unless you have the weakness, and then the other times they make so the boss just folds over like a
it's like, yeah, some fights
house
where
of cards.
either way it's not a boss at all because you either just get murdered or you murder it, and it's like, well, there was no fight here.
Yeah, and
those are the bad ones. I'd say those are the bad boss designs, honestly, when they do that shit.
we'll stay here for a second too, because it's very interesting with the way that I think it's, oh gosh, I cannot think of his name right this second, but the way the designer designed these games is he had one major design ideology in mind, which was he wanted Mega Man games to be completable quick. So starting out with the franchise, the levels were supposed to be short, so that on a successful run you finish it in like 2 minutes, the level. And I do think that the weapon like weakness wheel thing is just the kind of like customizable difficulty. And I do think that if we had gone into this with one game over, go find the weakness for this boss type ideology, we actually would have missed out on some really, really fun mechanics. You weren't here for this game, Ryan, but when John and I played X2, we got stuck on the bubble crab boss for a while. And that boss was actually very fun to fight without the weakness. I think it actually was good for us to do that.
They need to figure out a way to make these things fun with or without.
Well, here's the thing, Ryan. There's quite a few of them that are fun without. It's just that when you encounter the ones that don't, they just fucking spank you. It's a horrible feeling. So it just feels horrendous.
I'm thinking it's like different game to game. Where it's like sometimes it feels okay, either way, and sometimes it's just like, this sucks.
You
Yeah,
kind
I
of,
don't know.
in the early games, like the first 4 or so, you kind of had this setup where there was like almost like an intended path through the game where there was an easy one. Like the first one that comes to mind for me is Mega Man 1 with Guts Man or Bomb Man, one of the two. They're like so much easier than the other bosses. It makes sense that you're supposed to go to them first.
Yeah, it feels like the typical first boss is always the top left idiot guy, like the big dummy. It's always at the top left.
I think that might be true. I would have to look again because I don't know. Because I know for like some of the games that's definitely not the case, but it could be. It could be like the average is that way. I would have to look though because I don't know off the top of my head.
Might average out just to fight the big moron enemy.
Yeah, because when
Weakness.
We've fought big moron enemies in the past, and they've fucked us up. And we're like, holy shit, we need to find the weakness. This is not designed so you can beat them like the other ones.
yeah, like
There's been,
Spark
like, 1 or 2
Mandrill, for
exceptions.
instance, in
Oh my
Mega Man
god,
X.
Spark Mandrill. Oh my god.
We figured out how to beat him without his weakness. This is actually part of this is actually let's stay here because this is actually why we decided to play this way, I think. Because it was something that John and I we didn't just say in the X series that we're not going to leave fights. That was nothing we actually said to each other. But the way that we played X on our replay, because we've all played X. You played X, right, Ryan?
Long ago, yes.
Long ago.
I wish I could have got to play that game with you guys. 'cause
I didn't
that
know you
game's
liked Mega Man, or I would have invited you.
game's killer.
Because
I'm
at
a
the,
zero.
at the time, you and I were playing Rebirth together.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can say you're a classic video game guy and not enjoy X on some degree.
I think you have to play it. I think it's okay for people to say they don't like action platformers as a genre, for instance. But I think if you're gonna say that you're like a vintage connoisseur of some kind, you have to play all the major ones. So you'd have to play X, but then you would also have to play like Super Metroid 2, you know. But for the X game, what John and I did is we did a robot randomizer or robot master randomizer. And so we just put all of them in a hat and pulled them out. And so the order was like predetermined, and if we had the weakness, we were allowed to use it. And the reason why John and I did that was to try and make the game more interesting because we played it enough. Where it's like if we just played it the same way we always did, it maybe wouldn't have made for a good video, you know. And what we ended up happening is we had Launch Octopus first, which I have never in my life beaten Launch Octopus first in the boss order. Because why would I ever do that? You know, he's so much harder than any of the other ones. And then we got like Sting Chameleon second, right? So it's very interesting because with Mega Man X specifically, it forced us to play the whole game without the boost boots because we didn't get
Oh
them
my
until the
God.
very end.
That was actually cancer.
I think it was interesting though. I wouldn't.
No, it was humorous. It was humorous. I'm just saying, god damn, that was a painful experience. I played that entire game with boost boots. So there was platforming where I'm like, I have no clue how to interact with this. And because we didn't have the boost boots, we missed every possible fucking upgrade that was in that game.
Yep.
Every single one. We went the wrong sequence in every possible way.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because it forced us. I'm going to circle back to Spark Mandrill because that's where this started. It forced us to figure out how to counter Spark Mandrill without his weakness, which is something I've never done in my life before playing the game in that way. And John hadn't either because we all know that every one of these Mega Man bosses can be beaten without being hit. And so we went in with that knowledge that Spark Mandrill can, and then that's how we learned that you parry him with the charge shot, and that's how you deal with him. Because X is just, I mean, maybe I'll be talking a little bit of, too much for everybody here, but I think it's fair to say that we all probably like X the best out of the whole franchise.
Yeah, X is the best.
Wait,
Hands down for me at least.
Give that game another replay so I can reconfirm that with myself, but I just know in my heart of hearts that's true. I like Mega Man 4.
Mega Man
like
4 would be probably my second pick.
It's like my out of nowhere like favorite of the classic ones.
Yeah.
But X is still clearly like, top dog.
Yeah, it's completely just. I don't think it's ever been trumped in the franchise, and I think it's very interesting because we can take a look at the boss design of X, and I think you can find all of the problems that the Mega Man boss design has had over the course of the whole history of the franchise is that they don't take what was good about X and put it into all the games. What was good about X is the way that the bosses interact with, one, their weakness, and then also without their weakness. So, for example, when you hit Flame Mammoth with the boomerang, you can cut the trunk off of it, which is not a weakness of Flame Mammoth, but it's just a cool extra thing that you can do with the non-weakness weapon. And with Spark Banjo, you can parry him with a charge shot. That's a really, really cool feature. Armor Armadillo will reflect your attack back at you, which is a negative response, but it's a cool feature of the boss, right? And it's something that unfortunately, most of the games in the franchise just don't do that. Even 11 didn't really do that. There's a couple cases where they have, like 7 has some examples of it doing cool things with that, but I think the game that actually does it the best of this style is probably Mega Man 8, because like when you hit Clown Man with the tornado weapon, they get tangled up and roll around on the ground.
I think that'd be a neat thing to include in any later games, is like have a unique response to every individual weapon, whether it be good or bad, for every boss.
That would be so sick
Be
if they were ever to make like a Mega Man 12 or X9, right? That would be the sickest way to do that, because that would add a lot of like replayability of a kind to it, because it kind of incentivizes you to play the game in different orders all the time, which I think is what a lot of the mainline series especially has a problem with. It's like the replay value of Mega Man is the gameplay draw and wanting to try the order differently. And I think the mainline series has a big problem with giving you reasons to do that. Whereas X1 at least gave you lots of reasons. Because not...
Well, I mean, first thing you need to have is levels that are fun to play through, and as long as you have that, I think it's easy to play through the game in whatever order you want, and just, I don't know, not be concerned with.
Yeah, and I think you're right there, because X also has that feature that they literally never did again. And I'm very shocked that they never did this feature, where like if you destroy Launch Octopus and you go back to Sting Chameleon's level, there's water there. Or if you destroy Ice Penguin and you go to Flame Mammoth's level, it's frozen over. Or Storm Eagle, you shoot down his ship, and then the power's off in Spark Mandrill's stage. And they never did this ever again.
Yeah, they could make it a more of like a overworld type situation where stuff can change depending on where you go first, but it's...
I mean, they did such a good job with that shit. Oh my god.
It's such a cool feature, and really makes you want to revisit levels too, which was kind of core to X design philosophy because of the collectibles. And I like what you just said there, Ryan, about the overworld idea, because a game actually has done that, a game that we may play in the future sometime, I don't know. But Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair does that, where if you like pour water on a book, for instance, because the levels are books, the water is flooded this time. And then you can dry it out and get the original level back. But it really is a very interesting way of creating replay value by, making a non-water level a water level now, or making a non-ice level an ice level now, or so on and so forth.
Have little things that make it, like, I think each boss should have different, like, you can interact with them in different ways depending on what weapon you have. And then, stuff like that, where, like, you destroy like a power plant or something for one guy, and then the next guy is like his place ran on power, so now the whole place is shut down or something. Just have a bunch of unique little ways to interact with the world in different ways.
Yeah, and I think that would add a lot to...
This does that.
There's a lot of cases in the Mega Man series, both mainline and X, where I've been like, this game is great. 4 is a great example. I think 4 is excellent. I the whole time we've gone through, I've been always very confused about how when you look at people talking about 4 from like the 2000s, so like pre-YouTube or right at the start of YouTube, 4 is not very highly regarded. It gets kind of bundled with 5 and 6, which are not really looked at fondly within the NES series. And this is very shocking to me after playing them all in a row, because I feel like I have a very different perspective than the Mega Man fandom canon, so to say, where a lot of the games that historically have been viewed at very poorly, like 7 and 8, or the ones that were viewed very highly, like 2 and 9, I don't particularly like 2 and 9 as much as a lot of people do. I thought 2 was fine. It was fine. But to say it was the best of the mainline series, I very much wouldn't say that. Even a little bit, would I say that. And so it's very interesting when you play them all in a row versus how a lot of people played them historically, which was, I bought one for Christmas, next year I got the other one. It's a very interesting way how that impacts kind of the way that you look at the media and view it. Because I wonder if we had gone like 11 backwards, you know, how would our impression of 4 been different? Or if we had played one every year, and you know, in this hypothetical scenario, it was all split up over 15 years or whatever. How would our impression of these be different? What's that?
It just feels like 2 walked so 4 could run.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And this actually makes it even weirder when you consider 9 and 10, which are basically 2.5, right? They take 2's system and they just made a new game for 2. And it's very weird for me because, for me personally, and I'm sure John will agree, the games that preceded the charge shot and the slide are not the ones I wanted to see more of.
Yeah.
See, I like the slide. I like Mega Man when its levels are designed well enough for just like the simple mechanic of jump and shoot. When slide is good, it's very good, but when slide is bad, it's like bad.
Yeah,
But
I would agree.
I like 2 in the way that it's like you have very simple controls, but it does a good job of working with that.
And I suppose 2 is like the zero. The skill floor on 2 is insanely low because it is like all you need is jump, shoot. That's it, and then the rest is like managing your distance.
Well, I didn't like those experiences because sometimes in order to create artificial difficulty of platforming, they would basically put in things like fucking like the jump was just wide enough where your very far left toe of Mega Man had to be like you have to be hanging with your fucking crotch and right leg hanging off into the void, and then jump so your right toe pixel would just barely reach it.
It's
and
true.
they're like difficult game platforming, and I'm like, no, it means I have to walk up to a platform and then tap the analog stick 7 times to move Mega Man 1 pixel at a time. We all can remember the times where you have to do that, where you just watch Mega Man inch forward with his big toe being the only thing moving him forward, just so you can then be able to jump and make it, and barely make it at that. It's just like it's disruptive. It's disruptive to the gameplay. Like you're going through, you're like da 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 da, and you're like shooting, and then like da, and you stop, and you go, yeah, and then you jump, and they're like, okay, do that 3 more times, and now you can keep playing the game, and you're like, this isn't fun. So I hated those kind of interactions with that kind of shit.
I will say that I also felt like
older with like Mega Man's 1 through 4. Sorry, continue.
No, it's okay. It's all right. One of the big things I always found was kind of a missed opportunity with the slide, for instance, is that they don't let you jump out of the slide and maintain your speed and momentum.
Dude, bro.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. 0 is king. 0 feels like Proto Silk Song in a way, where it controls in that fashion, and it feels so good.
I'm excited to get
Mega Man X. Mega Man X, you can do the dash ability, and when you jump out of the dash, you go further.
Yep. For the mainline series,
I wish you're moving options flow together like that. That's like the good stuff.
It makes you feel good when you can combo things like that, and it's part of the reason that I like Crash Bandicoot so much, the first 3 games, and 4. 4 is good too for this. But a lot of the gameplay loop, once they add the slide, which starts with 2, is that you do slide jump or jump slide, and it creates some very interesting platform design sections and allowed the designers to create more interesting loops, and it allows you to play the level in more like a quick fashion, like a risky fashion if you want to. And I think Mega Man was really missing that with the way that the slide functions. And I don't really... Go ahead.
Remind me, does X have the thing where you can combine a dash and a wall jump, like you can dash wall jump?
That's later ones.
You can...
Zero games have that, and I'm just like... I'm just thinking about Zeros.
You can air dash in X2 forward, like you can jump and then air dash. Which was
kind of bad, because those are awkwardly...
It was very awkward because of the way that you have to double D-pad input it.
Yeah, that was, I hated that.
Do you remember the Trash Moth boss, John?
Oh my god, such garbage.
Where
they literally made it. That's an example of like boss design where clearly they built it so you would die repeatedly until you came back with the quote unquote correct skill. Where if you didn't have the air dash ability, which is something you have to unlock, it would just guaranteed hit you. And it would hit you for a fuck ton.
Yeah, this is actually a great thing to talk about for a second, because that boss is an example of one that is impossible to dodge if you did not get the air dash. And the way that we played that game, the first time we encountered it and beat it, because John and I were actually doing that thing where we just stay on the boss the whole time. We didn't, even at the time we were playing X2, it wasn't something that we agreed we were going to do this way. But we were just doing it. And the first time we encountered the boss, because we played that game twice for reasons we'll discuss here in a bit. But the first time we played that game, we didn't have the air dash. And we beat that son of a gun without the air dash.
Which is usually just came down to getting lucky and then doing a DPS race, which is really just not a good sign.
Yep. It was like if he did the big circle attack where he circled the whole thing, it was like your run was over, and sometimes he would do it 7 times in a row, and it's like it's over now.
He always did at least once, but the goal was to make sure he only got 1 or 2.
Yep.
Otherwise, your run's gone. It's just gone.
And then you had to maximize your attacks on him because you needed to get to the second phase with enough health just to be alive, because the second phase did so much damage that you died in one hit anyway.
It made no reason, and he's one of those bosses that did contact damage, and for whatever reason, when he touched you, it literally dealt 8 pips of damage. It was insane.
Insane, like a third or more of your health bar.
You have to enter the boss arena with low health.
So at the time, this is actually an important... go ahead, but I actually want to jump off that idea.
I'm just making a stupid comment. It's kind of like Nito, Gravelord Nito from Dark Souls 1.
Oh, yeah. Where you have to
enter his boss arena by taking fall damage. You have no choice but to fall damage yourself to get to the boss arena.
Oh, yeah, so silly.
Yep, very, very silly. When John and I were playing all the way through X8, actually, all the way through X8, and we didn't beat all of the X games. Eventually, we reached a point where we were pulling out our hair. We just said, no more. That's why there's not videos for all X games on the channel. But when we were playing through those, we didn't know about the rewind and save features of the Legacy Collection. So we played X's 1 through 4 completely legitimately. And that means every single time we died to that moth, we restarted that level from the beginning. And that level is a good level. It's a cool level. But it has moments where it's like, my goodness, I don't want to deal with this right now. This zombie robot animal again every single time.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about with X2 specifically is that is the game that John and I had to restart halfway through. Because it has a mechanic we didn't know about at the time.
Well, we didn't understand it.
We didn't understand it.
What's the mechanic?
Basically, you have these 3 X hunters that will show up. Their icons show up on the map. And if you go to a level with them, they're in the special boss room on the level that is unique to that level and usually a little bit harder to get to. If you finish the level, not lose. You can die when you go to one and game over. And every time you go back to the world map, they'll change their location. But if you finish the level without killing them, they disappear. And you can't fight them anymore. Now, what this does is it denies you the good ending for the game, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And it also makes the very final Sigma level harder because it adds a boss fight. So, it's a mechanic where we saw these guys, right? And then we were just playing the game, and eventually we noticed that some of them were just gone. And we're like, what the heck? And then we restarted the game.
You had to restart because of this, or it's...
Yeah.
No, well, we chose to.
So we wanted to interact with them and figure out what the fuck that was.
We wanted to see what the mechanic was, and we wanted to fight the bosses. So we chose to, but it was kind of this weird thing where it did affect us, and we had to fight that morph moth twice. Although the second time we went in with the weakness and killed him quickly.
Because no respect was given. We're like, fuck this. No mono, just burned to death.
Yep. Yeah, and we would learn about the Legacy Collection features, which I think is very important for the type of discussion that we're having today with, like, save stating and rewinding as an availability. Because John and I did beat X, X2, and X4 without features like that. We did not beat X3 because of that guy at the end and the fact that X3 was a nightmare experience in general. X3 was a nightmare experience. Like, oh my god, the levels, how long they were at X3.
Oh my god.
They're like 15-minute levels on a successful one.
This would not fucking end.
And
I wonder why X had all the good ideas and everything else just kind of...
X and X2 were fine, and then everything after that had some negative on it, and then sometimes some positives. Because X3 did have some really cool secret hunting. That was fun. And then X3 also had some very unique mechanics that were interesting. However, X3 also had really, really long levels that were way too long for the type of game X, like Mega Man is. And then it had this insane final boss that is honestly one of the worst in the whole franchise. With one of the tightest windows to hit his little forehead.
Oh yeah, you had basically a pixel on him, and they made it so that pixel was surrounded by a hitbox that would be indestructible.
And deflect,
and the way
yeah.
And the way it interacted with projectiles is if the projectile hit anything that wasn't the weakness, deleted the projectile. So you couldn't just like shoot a Mega Blast and happen to hit it because the invincibility pixels were up in front of the weakness, so it would delete them. So the only way to shoot him was to basically either a pixel perfect shoot a guy who's going up and down and floating while crawling up the wall with no room while dodging missiles with a charter shot, or just shoot normal shots as eyes and hope to God that just by spamming it you get it.
That's also the game.
So designed.
That's
my least favorite bosses in Mega Man is the giant robot. We have to figure out the magic pixel to shoot.
Oh
Yeah,
my god, they're
that.
so bad.
Has
Oh yeah, let's just stay here for a second because that is a consistent thing in Mega Man.
That and the magic weapon. Like some of them just outright just say you can't hit it unless you cycle through like 6 or 7, like 8 of them, and you combine that with the magic pixel. You might actually have used the weakness of the boss, but you just didn't hit the weak point. So you may have actually just used the weakness, but for all you know, you hit him, you hit him, and nothing happened. Nope, it was the right one.
That actually happened to us too with Mega Man 2. We had the right weapon, and by the way, Mega Man 2 is actually something you get soft locked on. You have to completely leave the reload the level from the beginning. All of the Wily stages, by the way, because I'm wrong, but I don't think you refilled upon game over with restarting the level in Mega Man 2. But if you don't have that very specific bubble weapon, you actually cannot kill the final boss in Mega Man 2. And it's design decisions like that that really made me dislike Mega Man 2. They're things that, like, obviously on replay, you're never going to have to worry about this being a bad thing again. But for me, if a game gets to the point where, like, completing it without guides is sometimes impossible or forces you to redo 4 levels or whatever the case may be, I kind of count that
always
really
a
bad
aspect of a game.
Yep, it's a soft lock. It's not a hard lock, but yeah, it's just really, really sucks. And early Mega Man did this a lot. In fact, when I was making the Mega Man 4 video, it was kind of this weird dissonance because when we together played Mega Man 4, I kind of hit my mic there for a second, we had a terrible time with the Wily stages because we had so much fun using the weapons that we were using the weapons liberally.
I think that was mostly me. I'm always the resident weapon user, so
usually in 4 we all were doing it. We were all using the weapons in 4 because the suite was just fun to use. But the problem is if you do that on that level, there's some of them that, like, you just cannot do some parts of it in a reliable way. And it made it so that when I was looking at the footage of us playing Mega Man 4, it was like we weren't having a good time with the Wily stages. But upon replay, I had a blast on the Wily stages because I knew which weapons I could use and which ones I couldn't use. But the fact that...
Well, that... Continue, sorry.
I was going to say, and it's probably exactly what you were about to say, John, the fact that there's no evidence of that on your first play is very, very bad. And I think for those who are considering playing the game for the first time, the series for the first time, or looking through our series, it can be very frustrating and very, like, honestly, genuinely frustrating. I think sometimes when people play vintage games, they get frustrated by things that they really shouldn't be frustrated by, like genre conventions, that it's part of the genre and you shouldn't be frustrated by this, like
genre conventions,
like live systems and platformers in Super Mario World, for instance. It's not a big deal in World to have to replay the level from the beginning because they usually pop you right there in front of the level or a few levels back or something. But when John and I played that one legitimately on original SNES hardware, it really wasn't a big deal. It was kind of fun, actually. This is one of those cases where this is a critique that you can levy at vintage game design that I think is perfectly valid. The idea that you feel like you're being kind of like put over by the developer, where they've designed something to intentionally soft lock you, like that Mega Man 2 situation. There's no way that they did not consider the soft lock possible. And
they're just completely fine with you basically being like, well, I guess you have to rent this again, or you have to buy it.
You rent it again, or I think some of that is true with the anti-rent measures for the first half of the 90s. But Japan really started to kind of lessen their weight on that in the second half of the 90s.
A long time to shake off that arcade design philosophy.
Yes, yeah. Like, Mega Man had that arcade philosophy for a long time. I think it makes sense, especially when you consider, like, the series, but it does make it so it's something that, like, that part of the design can be very frustrating. We've went to arcades a few times over the last 5 years, and I actually have really grown to love arcade design when you accept the fact that the games are not designed for you to... Like, you're not really supposed to beat your head against it constantly. You're supposed to play it and then move on to something else. They're really designed for short sessions. And I actually kind of like that. And I do like the spirit behind Mega Man design, where it's like these levels are designed, you're supposed to play it and beat it in a few minutes, and the whole game, once you've mastered it, you beat in an hour, right? However, Mega Man is a tough series. It is not an easy franchise. There are games that are not that bad. Like, 4 really wasn't that bad, and I think it contributed to the fact that we liked it more, because it was hard, but it was hard in a way that, like, felt very surmountable. Whereas moments of, like, 2 and 1 just felt impossible at times. And I think this is a perfect time to talk about everybody's favorite part of every Wily stage, the Yellow Devil moments in all of these games.
Legend.
Where you walk in the room and he starts building, and in our context,
Go tell yes.
I hear John scream every time.
Oh my god, it is the only thing I can describe it as is it's bullshit game design. It's terrible game design, and everyone's ever going to tell me is, John, just so you know, the Mega Man community just loves this. They want more. We would vote we would vote Yellow Devil into office if we could. Praise be the Yellow Devil. I worship his blockiness every day. And also the part that sucks is that it's a boss that feels like it was designed for you to have an invincibility roll, but you don't have the invincibility roll. Imagine fighting like a Dark Souls game, and they have like a crazy monster that swings at you quickly, and they're like, okay, dodge, and you can't. Your only dodge is to just guess and hope to God you're standing in the right position. And the answer is you're always wrong.
Exactly.
And it just, oh god, fuck Yellow Devil so much. And because they're obsessed with it, they keep fucking doing the same game design. That's actually something they do a lot. The fucking teleporting blocks with the fucking evil Roomba underneath. They put that everywhere.
Those are good.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
well, here's the thing. Well, the thing is, like, it can be fun, but here's the thing. Why does the Roomba have to be there? It's because they like referencing previous game design, and the Yellow Devil's one of them. Because they're like, hey, remember this? Hey, remember that? It's all nods. So like the Roomba thing, good. Yellow Devil, not good. Fucking garbage.
Well, that makes me wonder what the feedback on Yellow Devil was, and if people did like him. It's like, what do people feel about Yellow Devil? Do they like him or what?
It's very interesting because he's not in Mega Man 2. Yellow Devil's not in Mega Man 2. He comes back in Mega Man 3 though, and the version in Mega Man 3 was one of the 2 versions that were fine. We didn't have a problem with the one in 3. That was the one with the female looking one, right?
Because it was a 3x3.
Yes, and so it was much easier to deal with. It was paired back, and that was back in the NES era. So the era where they were still trying to combat renting and stuff like that. So I think they knew that the one in Mega Man 1 was hard. I think they knew that maybe people started out not liking it because they cut it out for a game. But then they added it back in. So that makes me think that one of 2 things happened. Either people didn't like it, and so they're like, well, we can't do that again. Or people really did like it, and it just took time for it to hit their ears. Because this is pre-social media.
The story behind Yellow Devil, whether or not the feedback of him was like, yo, where'd he go? If we like that guy, or people just keep adding him because people hate him, so keep adding him or something. I don't know.
That would be very interesting to research. I have no idea how you would research that, because you're talking about trying to. I think you would have to track down gaming magazines from the time and read people asking for hints on Yellow Devil. Honestly, I think that's really the only way you could figure it out, because that was pre-internet messaging boards too. But yeah, for some reason they brought him back. When they brought him back, it was much better. And then the other version that is actually kind of good is actually really good, I think. I would go so far as to say really good, really fun. You guys didn't actually get to see because it's in Mega Man 8, and our co-op playthrough, we stopped playing because of the Wily 1 ski section, where it's that really long skiing part. And so
I did that before I left, and then I left.
And then you left, which very unfortunate, John. You left for good reason. Like, you left for good reason. We only have 1 day to play these games, so we got to call it somewhere, right? But
yeah.
It's unfortunate that we didn't manage to beat it soon enough for you guys to be able to play that, because the Wily levels in Mega Man 8 are actually really, really good. They were really fun levels. And my favorite part of Mega Man 8, which is the one that had all the gimmicks in it, we'll talk about gimmicks next, was the Green Devil. And the Green Devil is cool because he's just the normal Jello monster, right? except to deal damage to him, you have to hit his eye area multiple times, and you drill a hole through the jello to his eye to deal big damage to the eye. And then all of his attacks, one, he has multiple different kinds that he can do. They're all very well telegraphed, and they're just fun to interact with. So that was like my favorite version of it, but it's so demonstrably different than every other version that is not even the same boss at that point.
That sounds really fun. It reminds me of the Goo Ghost from Yoshi's Island, where you have to like shoot at it to reach its heart. It reminds me exactly of that.
Yeah, no, I honestly did not think of that when I was making the 8 video, and I wouldn't have had time to do Super Mario World 2 anyway. But that would have been a great comparison to make there.
Yeah.
Because it is pretty much the same way, yeah. But it's a darn shame, because 8 is the start of what I call the gimmick era of Mega Man design, and it's like both franchises do this for a long time. It's not until Mega Man 9 through 11 that they stop doing gimmick design. And the gimmick, what I define as gimmick design, because gimmick's a very amorphous term, it's a very hard to define term when we're talking about game design, because technically water mechanics would be a gimmick, right? But I when we say gimmick, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the things that foundationally are different from normal Mega Man game design and make it feel like you're not playing Mega Man anymore. 8 had a lot of these. It had the skiing, it had the maze,
snowboarding or whatever.
the maze level where you're walking through the maze constantly. You had the shmup section, the shoot 'em up section, which that part was fine, but these are all things where you're not playing Mega Man. This isn't Mega Man anymore. And they started doing that a lot after Mega Man 8. X4 was the next one, and X4 had the next version of the skiing mechanic, which was the bike mechanic. And it's the first time that mechanic was actually okay, but even within its okay state, John and I got stuck on that for a long time. We had fun, we were laughing a lot while doing it, but it wasn't Mega Man, you know what I mean? And it's especially egregious with X4, because X4 had one of the coolest mechanics in all of the Mega Man series, which was you can either play as Mega Man or Zero, and they're completely different from one another. What did you guys think of when, like, the moments where Mega Man, it doesn't feel like Mega Man?
Well, so for me, at least, the main thing is, like, it just doesn't work in the format. They would do it completely wrong. So the way they handled it is they'd be like, okay, we're doing a skiing game. Well, it's a skiing game, so what does skiing games have? Well, you're moving at high speeds down you're skating across water on your boat, or you're riding down snow really quickly. Issue is, they kept the same field of view for Mega Man, which is where Mega Man takes up he takes up an eighth of the screen. So but you would still move so quickly. You had about a second to react to whatever the fuck showed up on the screen before it hit you.
I think there's bad examples of what Brian's talking about, and one is like the best example is when you get into the robot in X, right? You're like, oh, cool, I'm still playing.
That is a good example.
But then they do the motorcycle thing. It's like, this is a different genre that is done bad.
Yeah. I guess another good example would be that bike section in Mega Man 5, which I guess is technically the first bike. Because it's literally just you're on water and you jump a little bit higher and you shoot a bit faster, and it's auto scroller. But it's more or less just Mega Man, just auto scrolling.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good way of doing that. I think the big problem is when it's like you're not even playing the same game anymore. And I think some games have done gimmicks very well, where it foundationally changes the way the level feels. Like Super Mario World is another great example for this. When you turn into the vehicles in Super Mario World 2. The Yoshi vehicles, like the helicopter and the drill and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I can't ever think of it as Super Mario World. His name was Yoshi.
Yeah.
Those I mean
Yoshi's Island.
I love those so much.
or even in Super Mario World when you get the balloon power and you like float around on the balloon, or the Yoshi powers and they change things. Like it's not exactly the same thing, but those are examples of like you're not really playing that game anymore, but it still is fun and it still is true to what the thesis of the game is, right? Crash is really good at this. Spyro is really good at this as well, which I think is why we highly regard them from the 90s. But Mega Man never, like, if people complain about 8, the biggest complaint, there's 2 complaints I hear. Voice acting, because 90s voice acting, it's 90s voice acting. You either...
Oh my god, that voice acting one where they tried to do voice acting
Yep.
and they just found some random office workers or people walking by and they're like...
On the devs kids and made them say stuff.
You either like it for the charm, like the charm of the 90s, or you don't like it. It's one of the two. There's like no middle ground there. I fall in. I like the charm of it. I think it's funny. It adds like an identity to it.
Different scenarios where...
Yep. It does depend on the game too. Because Metal Gear Solid, I think, still holds up for its voice acting. Like the voice work. Maybe not the writing, but the voice work for 1998's game. When people talk about what's bad with Mega Man 8, it's always the gimmicks. That's the other thing. And that's the thing I think makes perfect sense to me as a complaint. Because it really, like, Mega Man 8 is one of my favorites of the mainline series. But the gimmick design is really, really hard to overlook. It's like borderline impossible to overlook. It's just very, very... It kind of spoils the well in a lot of ways. It pollutes it. In ways that I think there was this kind of this what I'm going to call the bad era for Mega Man, which is like Mega Man 8 all the way through X8. And even though I like Mega Man 8, I like X4. These are some of my favorites of their respective series. I kind of can count them as a part of the bad era because that's the whole era where they were constantly trying to get you to not play Mega Man in Mega Man. And it's always the worst part of each game.
Well, here's the thing. What makes it worse suck? Like, you're playing a game where what's the point? Your goal is to go in, fight the Robomaster on their own home ground, beat the shit out of them, eat their heart, gain their powers, and then use their powers on other Robomasters and all their minions. And get more powers, become God, walk into Wily's stage, get your ass beat because Wily's weak to none of them except for the one that's the worst to use. And that's the experience. Here's the issue. Suddenly you get on you walk into a stage, Mega Man jumps on a bike for no goddamn reason and starts driving, and guess what? You can't use any of your abilities. Like, they just sacrifice that whole point of the game, like the core identity. They're just like, fuck that. Why would you use that?
Do you guys remember
Mega Man's flow?
Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying the same thing John said, except in one sentence.
Do you guys remember in X8 the one where you're like, it's the shooting gallery level, where you're going through the city and chasing the tentacle guy in the spaceship and you're trying to shoot him constantly?
That one, the 3D racing one was especially garbage.
I think
It's a great soundtrack that featured Brian screaming for 3 hours.
Oh my god,
It
dude.
was pretty great. It was my favorite.
X8, I was actually shocked when we got to X8 because if you read online, people will say X8 is when the X series kind of follows this trajectory where it's going up, 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 down, and then up again with X8. I disagree completely. I did not like X8 at all. There were elements I enjoyed, like the fact that you have 3 playable characters and you can upgrade all of them, and that's really cool. I think that's really cool.
Character, but yeah.
Yeah, you like to play Axe all the time. We want to play Mega Man and Mega Man. Yeah, I know.
Mega Man sucks.
But it foundationally changes the way that you play those games, right? But then you're throwing something like that in there, or you've got that like trial level where you're like constantly doing trials all the time, or the one level with the gravity where you're like switching gravity all the time and it's just kind of obnoxious.
Trials.
The level where like you go into a room, you teleport, you have to like kill a bunch of things, or you have to like platform. It was like just not a good level in my opinion. And that one, I think, was inspired by the trial mechanic in Cyber Peacock's level in X4, where...
Trial. Oh, you're talking about the speed run. thing. They're like,
yes,
get through here
in
a
X4
certain
that was
run.
the speed run thing. In X8 it was like a bunch of you have to kill X number of enemies, and then we teleport you to a new room where you kill a bunch of enemies.
Oh, it was the training area. Like,
yeah, the training area. Yeah.
And there was no context whether or not you were succeeding or not. You just like.
Yep.
Down or up, and you had like nothing explained to you at any point if that was good or bad.
Yep. And the thing is they what they were trying to do is they were trying to make the games stand out more. But they went just the completely wrong way. If they had instead did what X did, with where like the way that you interact with the bosses is more interesting, and the way that the levels change when you beat certain levels, if they expanded on that idea, Mega Man would be its own style of platformer. We wouldn't put it in amorphous like action platformer zone, because it would have such a unique idea. And I also think they should have borrowed some ideas from like Metroidvanias, where it wouldn't really be a Metroidvania, but the idea of your weapon also being a mobility tool. I think that would have been a great addition.
It did that several times in several of the games. I mean, there's that one electrical guy where literally the electric ability was only just a pseudo wall to jump off of.
Yeah, you're right, and they definitely did. But what I'm saying is I wanted it to be something where it happened maybe more often to elicit you coming back.
You got my full agreement here. That would have been lovely. Because every time we got one of those, it was such a wonderful, like, cool, like, oh, we could use it that way. And that was really creative.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the funniest one is where they tried doing that on purpose, where it's the fucking chain weapon. But it was so...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the chain from, I think, X2.
It was so bad... It was the weakness of the gator guy.
Yes,
it was so bad that actually it was so garbage they forced it to be a requirement in order to get access to one of the collectibles. That like they had to.
Yeah, I remember this one.
A circumstance where you had no choice but to use it to reach the final 2 centimeters, because that's how long the chain moved. It would move 1 foot in front of Mega Man, and 1 foot's like 16 pixels. And that's the distance it would grab. And what it would do is it would just pull Mega Man towards it. It wouldn't do anything cool where he would like hold onto the wall or anything and like hang off of it like a fucking assassin. No, you just got inched forward a little bit. You used like 2 pips on a really useless skill. And then because it's a useless skill, even if you're in the middle of a fight, you couldn't use it in the middle of a fight because you'd have to switch while midair or whatever the fuck you're trying to do any tricks with it. It just would not work. It was just so bad.
Something else I think they could do, I just want to piggyback off of what you just said there, John, about switching through weapons. Something boomer shooters do now, they didn't always do this, and I want to make sure I preface by saying that it's a relatively new idea, old vintage or retro FPS games like Doom, Quake, stuff like that. Like old shooters. What they do that is very interesting, and I think would be something that would serve Mega Man in the future if they could figure out how to do this, is they have a weapon wield for switching weapons, because you need to weapon swap all the time in a boomer shooter. And what it does is it slows down the game. Like, all the monsters slow down, everything slows down as you're in the window. They don't stop, they just slow down. And it gives you enough time to switch to a weapon, shoot, switch to a weapon, shoot, if you want to do that. You could also switch normally if you want to.
Man. I think it's like it's kind of a trap in Mega Man to use that, like, you know, what's the quality of life button, quotation marks, where you're like, I can switch my stuff on the fly. But it's like all it does later in the game when you have 8 is like make it feel terrible and confusing. Like, it's just optimal to go to the start menu for whatever you want.
Well, this is why I'm saying that this mechanic would fix that, because of the way it doesn't take you out of the game, but it effectively pauses the game, more or less, with the cost being if you take, like, I don't know, 10 seconds to think your way through this, you're going to be in a big trouble. But what I think is really bad about the start-stop nature of, like, early Mega Man is that it feels really bad to have to go to the menu, switch, go to the menu, switch, use your weapon once, switch.
It's disruptive.
But it feels worse. It feels worse to press the button and be like, oh, I'm on the wrong thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, it'd be fine sometimes. I think in some games, it just made it was easier. In other times, it's harder. Like, for whatever reason, I think part of the one we recently played, the act of you having to have Mega Man switch up his appearance and hologram in his fucking new look, it actually reduced the speed you could cycle through them. And because there's so much visual noise, we actually had a hard time determining which one was which.
Yeah. I think also what could help is if you could customize the order you want them to appear in. So that you could create your own memorization matrix, right? Like if I wanted, let's say my brain works better memorizing like the first letters of things, or I'm more color-coded minded, right? I could customize it to then be in the order of the color wheel. This is just an example. To help me memorize 4 presses is this one, 3 presses is this one, and find it faster. I think that could also be a solution, because this is a problem from the series as soon as they added that. It was cool that they added it, and it's very helpful when you're able to cycle without going to the menu. But sometimes when you need like 3 weapons in one room, it gets very obnoxious, where I need to shoot this once and then switch and shoot this other one. That can get kind of obnoxious. So I think putting something in there that some way that would have helped the series a lot to maybe make it feel more modern. There's a big difference between like vintage and retro game design. We kind of use those two terms interchangeably quite often.
I don't use them at all, but I use retro.
I know it.
Sorry.
Retro games are indie games. They call back to an earlier era of design.
Okay.
Whereas
vintage is actually old.
Old design.
Like Zelda.
Okay, got it. That makes sense now. That's why I was assuming via context clues, but they there's no clue.
The reason why the term, and I heard you, Ryan, but I want to finish this point real quick. The reason why the terms matter, and I, for a long time, didn't think the difference mattered until we started playing Mega Man, and I started playing a lot more franchises from the 90s, is because you can tell the difference between an indie game that is paying homage to the past and a game that actually is from the past, because their design ideals were completely different. I think sometimes indie games, this is not all the time, sometimes indie games modernize too much out of that old classic design, and it means that it's like paying lip service but not actually pushing that forward. But that's kind of the difference. What were you going to say, Ryan?
No, I'm just saying vintage kind of like is like a vibe where it's like this is just ancient. This is like Pong or like Zelda or like something you have to blow the dust off. Retro is just kind of like it's went to the past or something. I don't know. That's what I see. It's what I visualize when I hear the two words.
I think like the control schemes are the perfect example of this, because like a lot of vintage games were just messing around with control schemes. There wasn't one set way controls could go, so you can tell oftentimes a vintage game with weird controls. It's sometimes fun to think, what were the designers thinking with this control scheme? And it's actually helped me appreciate a lot of older ones thinking that way. But in a modern one, they have just the box standard one. You pick up a controller, and minus like maybe small nuances, you know how to play the game immediately. It doesn't matter.
Like a niche. It falls into like this like, what's the word? Like it's a blueprint of that kind of game and how they play. But lots of those games, vintage, like have no blueprint whatsoever.
No, they don't, and they change things all the time. They switch things around constantly, and it means that you have to sometimes learn the controls. This actually happened earlier this year with a game that the community voted for review, Def Jam Fight for New York. I had to kind of like think my way through how to play the game, because it just did not play any which way that I was used to with the way that the fighting mechanics worked. Like, it didn't play like a wrestling game from the era, it didn't play like a fighting game from the era, but it was kind of both at the same time. And it was kind of interesting to have to kind of reprogram my brain, because I haven't had to do that in so long, to try and like learn how to play a game, like what buttons do. Because these days it's like I know what a button does pretty much as soon as I pick up the game. Like, I don't have to think about it that hard.
It'd be interesting playing Shadow of the Colossus, where you will again have to do that.
Yeah, Shadow of the Colossus is going to be interesting with that. When we're recording this video, we haven't quite gotten to that yet, but yeah, it'll be hitting the channel. I don't know, maybe next month. I don't want to promise anything. I don't know when that video is coming out. But it's just, I've both really loved going through the series, and I've also really hated it. And it makes answering this question kind of a tough one, like, should you play all of them or not? Because, for a realistic answer for somebody who's never played the franchise and just wants to know if they're good or not, I would have to say no. I would have to say you should play this one, and that one, and this one, that one, and this one would be like X, 4, and 11, right? Or maybe 7 as well.
You should play all of them is when you have something to prove, like us or something.
I think there's something to gain from playing through a long-running franchise and appreciating the history of it. I think that's true of just every media, right? With like films, I think it's very fun to watch old films and then watch newer versions of it and see, well, what happened here? Why did they do that? But what were you gonna say, John?
Well, I guess for me, it depends upon your perspective. If that's what you're seeking, then yes. But like, I think that's a very specific thing to want. Like if you're just going there for gameplay, some of these games are just I would highly not suggest. If you're there, like if you want there to be, let's say you did say it, like you have something to prove, then yeah. But like some of these games, they're just so garbage. Unless you have something like a channel that's like, hey. We're playing all of them, so I can say that I played all of them. Yeah, cool. But some of them are just like, if you're like, John, would you make something recommend? I'm like, no. Some of these are just so fucking terrible.
Yeah, like life is short, man. Don't play Mega Man 7. Go play Pizza Tower or something, you idiot.
Like,
Stop.
There's some really good ones. Now I can see where like if you like want to have that like this, like game design mentality and try to see what changes over time. I can see that. But
there's kind of a joy to that, right? Trying to break down the artistry of something as you go through it. Try to appreciate something from the past. There can be kind of an artistry to that. Maybe I'm weird in that because I like reading old books.
Not weird in that. You're not weird in that. I think it's just I know that I'm not that. Like to me, like I can see it. I can be like you point out, or I can look at it and be like, you know what? Like for me, Namely turns into. It's really annoying that they don't have this yet. Like, it's really annoying they don't have this cycle yet. It's annoying that I have to menu stupidly. For example, I was just complaining where it's annoying that they set it up so that whenever I go to shop for something, I have to wait for the stupid little girl to go, are you sure you want that Mega Man?
That one's weird because it's kind of, that specific thing is unforgivable, kind of, because there's no excuse of, like, they didn't know about this mechanic or they didn't think this through. The idea of being able to buy a bunch of things at once have been around since like 1986, and Mega Man 11 came out in 2018. So I agree with you completely on that one. There's literally no design reason why they shouldn't. Ryan, what are you saying?
But here's the thing. Oh, sorry.
I think I'm just agreeing. It's like so many games have had like, how many would you like to purchase? You have little sliders like 1 through 9.
Yeah, there's literally no reason why they couldn't have done that. So that one's kind of unforgivably bad. Anyway, what were you saying, John?
It's more along the lines of just like, but that like now there's ones where like as you said you defend, you're like, hey, that's a failure on their part because they had access to this knowledge now in more modern gaming. But but there's also the experience where just like when you play the older games, they just won't have that. You're gonna have to deal with the awkward stuff, and if you don't want to deal with that, then you might not want to play some of these games because they're going to have those like multiple sets of like awkward game design where you're just like, well, they don't have a design this yet, or it's a new thought process. And it's like,
like archaic shit.
It feels like it's archaic as fuck, and it's like yes, like at the time they didn't have it. Yes, they didn't have this, but just for the person now in 2025 when you go to play this, it's good to know that when you go to play it. There's going to be a lot of unnecessary waiting time or unnecessary this or just awkward stuff. And there's a reason, and yes, there is, but like also like if your goal is to play a game, you're like, I want to have fun. The answer might be don't play that game.
Yeah, I kind of equate it to the way that like some people just can't do black and white movies at all, right? Some people are just so avidly against that they just literally cannot stand it. And it's the same kind of thing. If you can't appreciate like the design as it was, maybe not play it, There's some, like, the ones I could easily recommend would be like Mega Man X, 4,
Oh yeah. Oh
7,
yeah. No,
and 11.
Let's talk about the older Mega Man games.
Yeah.
By the way, this is like Mega Man like 1 through 4, maybe not like 1 through 3 for sure. Are gonna be like awkward as fuck.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
of the shit, but
It's-
continue, sorry.
It's just a hard question to answer because of that, because there's a lot that goes into entire franchises like that. And the reason why I would recommend 4, 7, 11, and X is because they're all like representatives of different design ideas, and they give you a good idea of what you're looking for. So if you didn't like 4, you're probably not going to like the ones before that, right? Or after in the NES style. If you didn't like 7, you might not like 8. If you didn't like X, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean?
Go home.
Yeah, admittedly, yeah. Honestly, at that point, yeah, like what the fuck? You might want to see a doctor.
You might just not like platformers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's also that's something to keep in mind.
Yep. So it's hard to recommend, and the reason why every time my friends and I finish a series or a game, I want us to kind of have this design discussion. I might start calling them design discussions, because I think it's interesting to kind of break it down. The next thing that we're going to be doing together, unless you guys have final thoughts, I think it's a good time to wrap up here. We're over an hour, so it was a good it was a very good discussion, but it's probably time to wrap it up. Do you have any final thoughts, guys?
No.
My only real thought is just these games. Some of these games can be just really beautifully designed things where like quite a few of them are quite nice. I love the level design sometimes. Sometimes the bosses are really well made. Sometimes the abilities are just magical. And then other times it's just shit. But the main thing that just I guess I would say is these games I would never suggest playing like we did, which is all the way through. You got back up sometimes. Come back later.
Maybe quit some early. There's some, if we had quit them early, maybe we wouldn't have burned out as well.
Yeah. Wily stages for sure. I would, like, if you're playing the Mega Man series in general, if you go in there and you start feeling like, man, I'm starting to hate this game, fucking don't play it. Don't fight the Wily stage. That is the worst part. And if you were to ask me, my opinion of Mega Man series as a general scope is delicious cake. Sometimes it's mediocre cake from Walmart with different flavored slices, which is really creative. And some of them are a little weird, like they have the fucking jet skis, and you're like, oh, that's a bit weird. That's a weird cake piece, but okay. And some of them are really bad, like there's like, like you took a bite and there's a dead beetle inside, and that's the Ready Dead fucking one. But like, it's disgusting, but otherwise it's, it's a cake, it's yummy. And then every single one, most of the time, the Wily stage is just a shit on top of the cake. And you're like,
it would be in the middle. It'd be in the middle. You get to eat a little bit before you taste it.
It's in the middle, you're fucking... It's always just waiting to ruin it, usually. So I would suggest take your time with Wily stages or just avoid them if you can. There's a couple we enjoyed. There's a very rare, though. Very fucking rare did a Wily or Sigma stage not ruin our experience. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I have to describe. It's the ruining is what it is. It poisons the water. That's the thing. But otherwise, the rest of it can be, as I said, fucking wonderful pieces of cake. Like, this is delicious. Mm-hmm. I loved it. Oh my god, I want more. Just avoid the little piece of shit in the middle. If you're like, ew, this is gross, don't go near it. Fucking leave.
This is a good... I really, really like the way that you said that. And I do have one final question for you, John. If it was something where you just didn't have to play the Wily stages, because, you're not doing it for the channel, we're just doing it for fun, would you replay some of the games?
Oh, easy. Several of them I was playing where I'm like, God, I want to play this by myself, because some of the levels I just didn't get to play myself, or like, I didn't get to fight the boss. I'm like, I want to play this again. And every time, the part of my brain goes, but those Wily stages. But if I just tell myself as a rule, no Wily stage, oh my God, yes, absolutely. Quite a few games suddenly are on the table.
I think 11 is a good one for that. A great example, because that's a very unique game in that most of the game is the Robot Masters, and the Wily stages are actually not that much of the game. They're like less than 5% of the game.
And 11's not that bad, but let's say if 11 was like really terrible Wily stages, it would be the perfect example of what we want in a Mega Man game, which is just awesome abilities, awesome boss design, awesome stages that are really creatively designed, just a good time, So, yeah.
And then, Ryan, what are your final thoughts?
I don't know, it's like an 80% bad franchise, I think, in my brain.
Wow. Okay, I wouldn't go that
Yeah,
far, but
yeah.
that's fair. I actually could see that from.
Play some of these. Just straight up stop playing some of these. Just play 4 and X and whatever, and just go play something that's done it better.
Yeah, maybe take like a look at what do people mostly rank at the top and why. I think the why matters a lot. You can't really trust somebody's order of games until you understand why they're putting it there, because sometimes people put some really really high for because they appreciate things that I, for instance, wouldn't appreciate personally. So I think
Or
that's
it's
important to
nostalgia.
keep in
They're
mind.
just like,
Or
like,
nostalgia.
child me liked it.
Yeah, I think nostalgia is sometimes an overused thing, but you're right. Sometimes it is nostalgia. I think it's very you get in a dangerous mindset sometimes when you're talking about vintage games, because a lot of people will say, "Well, you're just being nostalgic for this thing." When
Okay.
that's not always the case. It wouldn't be the case for us, for example, with this, except X. I suppose you could argue that one.
X is the only one.
but-
X is the only one I played as a kid.
Yep. So, I mean, it's kind of a rough thing where I think you can't just assume it is, but if somebody says it is that way, then you need to take that into mind, right? With looking
Yeah,
at their
yeah.
opinion and evaluating it. Well, guys, I think we will keep doing this for every time that we either finish, like, a series. So if it's a singular game, we'll do a discussion afterwards, but if it's a whole series, we'll do the discussion after the whole series is over. The next options for you all, which the poll is either just posted yesterday or it will be posting in a week. At the time that we're recording this, I'm not sure. So just look at the community tab. But there will be a poll asking which game you want us to play next or series. And the options are Demon Souls. This is the option we all agreed on. Because the way I have it set up is we all agree on one and then we all put one option forward. Demon Souls was the one that we all agreed on. We all said we wanted to do it again, and I think that would be a very fun one to do and analyze and discuss. Alien Isolation, which was the one I put forward for this, because John and Ryan have never played it all the way through. They played quite a bit of it, actually, but just not all the way through. I think it'd be fun for us to do that. Ryan's recommendation was Final Fantasy X, which Ryan and I have played multiple times through, but John has never played a Final Fantasy game all the way through or even for a significant amount of time, I think it would be fair to say, because
I played a little bit of Final Fantasy VII because it was highly suggested, and this is actually an example of what we were referencing, like black and white movies. I was playing that game, and I'm like, I cannot play this because it's a whole bunch of chibi cubes and like triangles. They're like, I'm a person, look, and you're like, oh god, what is that? Hi.
We could have.
Oh my god.
We could have a whole discussion on people not being able to handle early 3D. Although I think that's actually switching around. I think people are very appreciative of it now, but are becoming more appreciative of early 3D. What were you saying, Ryan?
Combating John's dumb FF7 opinion.
And well, here's the thing. I've made it my personality to be like, I hate Final Fantasy, but in all reality, I haven't played one properly. And most of the time, I hear some actually interesting storylines.
I think you'll
really
like
fun.
10. So
and stuff like that. So no, I'm looking forward to trying one. I just
Yep. What were you saying, Ryan?
Saying John's gonna play the most easily digestible Final Fantasy game.
Yep. I think 10 is honestly a great entry point. It's the one I would buy most of the time. Maybe there's a situation where I'd recommend something else if I knew somebody liked a particular type of mechanic or something. Or a particular, like if they like 2D games, I'm not going to recommend 10. I'd recommend 4 probably. But most of the time I would recommend 10 as an entry point for the series. And because of the way Final Fantasy is, you could play any of them in any order, just like Mega Man. You don't need to play them in order. You can jump around. But yeah, that'll be the third option. And then the thing John put forward was the Donkey Kong Country franchise. So that would be DKC 1 through 3, Returns, Tropical Freeze, Bonanza, which is not a DKC game, but it's new, and I think it'd be fun to play. And then Yooka-Laylee and then Impossible Lair. Once again, not a DKC game, but it is by the same developer, so I think it'd be fun to kind of look at that and analyze that. So those are going to be the 4 options. Vote for your favorite. Don't worry about, oh man, I want all 4 of these. Vote for your favorite. Whatever is not chosen, we'll cycle back around whenever we're done. Obviously, the single game ones, those will come sooner. You'll get more votes that way. But DKC, honestly, is only going to take maybe a bit longer than those other ones because they are just platformers. And we have the platforming King John on our side. So...
Giggle. Kill me.
And yeah, so that's it. I'm fine with any of them. I like all 4 of those options. So they wouldn't be on there if they weren't, because we all had veto power when we chose them. So all right, so
Veto power.
Veto power. Like, yeah, if you don't really don't want to play something, then yeah. So
yeah, honestly, that's fair. Yeah.
So that's going to be it for this design discussion, guys. And we're going to do this, like I said, every time. So keep your eyes open for the Shadow of the Colossus one. That video is coming. It's probably coming next month, but I don't want to promise that because I honestly, at this point, have not started my replay, and I always replay to get more specific footage for the video. So at the time this is releasing, I haven't done that, so I don't know when it's coming. It is coming. And then either the same week or the week after or something like that, there will be another design discussion for Shadow of the Colossus for you guys to enjoy. This was a long video. If you got this far, I really want to thank you for giving us all this time. Your time is very precious to me on this channel. That's why I only make videos as long as they need to be. So there's no consistent, every video has to be 30 minutes. A video is 9 or 15 as the need for that video is. So I really thank you for watching this far, and I hope we see you guys around. If you liked the video today, please consider smashing that like button, subscribing, and ringing in the notification bell. Hyping up the video would ensure that more people will see it. And if you think the discussion was good, that would be very helpful for me, and I'd appreciate it a lot. Regardless of what you choose to do, though, thank you for keeping it real with Rayl Deal Games, and we will all see you in the next one. I am channel owner and the host, Rayl, and then my co-hosts here, John, and
hello.
and Ryan.
Goodbye.
Hello.
And we will. Oh, and Jeremy was here this whole time too.
Bye.